But what we have been talking about in terms of the profit and the revenue sort of leads us a little bit into due diligence.
Yep.
So I imagine that as a buyer, that the due diligence process is very, very important in terms of your process for buying a website.
Absolutely. It's probably the most important part. And it baffles me how many people don't do it. Buy sites, it's like, you don't even know what you're buying. Anyway,
what are the most important things you look for when you're doing your due diligence? What are the 2 or 3 key things that matter most to you?
Yeah, okay. So I think it's worth noting that it usually takes me between 5 and 6 hours to do full due diligence on one website.
Okay.
So it's a significant time, and obviously I'm not going to cover every single step of that. A lot of it has been built up over time, and I had to do it and so on. So, but some of the key things are traffic. So you want to look at where the traffic is coming on the website, where is it coming from, what they're doing, how long they're spending on your website, and all those sort of metrics. Sort of along with that, if it's getting traffic through Google or organic search, you're looking at SEO factors like backlinks. Where are the backlinks coming from, and those sort of factors as well. Next thing is obviously the profit. So you want to verify every single cent of profit through screenshots, screen shares, and those sorts of things. And along with that sort of goes with the expenses as well. So some sellers are a little bit dishonest when it comes to expenses because they're trying to make it look better than it actually is. So you have to be careful, which is one of the reasons why I value sites based on what my expenses are going to be, not what theirs. So, and the next thing is the seller. So the traffic, profit, seller. So the seller generally is covered by just having an interview with them, just talking to them over Skype or whatever.
So you want to buy from someone who you trust, or someone who is trustworthy generally? Is that what you're looking for when you're talking to the seller?
So I've walked away of plenty of deals because I just get a bad vibe from the seller.
Wow, okay.
Plenty. It happens a lot actually because it happened literally just a few months ago. And if you can't trust the person, you don't know what's going to happen. It's a big risk because you're dealing with people. There's another person on the other side of that computer that's, anyway, so yeah, it's definitely a massive factor.
Yeah. And just to dig into the other ones a little bit more, so in terms of traffic, you spoke about how much traffic there is and where it comes from. I imagine that not all traffic is created equal in terms of valuation.
No, definitely isn't. So
organic versus paid is an obvious one.
Yeah.
So organic traffic would be more valuable than paid traffic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially but there's some more nuances in there as well, I imagine.
Yeah. Like I said, the main metrics is like bounce rate, time on page, or time on site in general. Page speed is actually another one that's become a big thing recently. If it's a slow website, in some ways this is an opportunity if it's ranking fairly well and it's slow. But yeah, traffic from another big thing that sort of started happening or has been happening for a while is Facebook traffic, which can generate a lot of traffic to your website, and Pinterest and those sorts of things. So each one is they have a certain attention span, so to speak. The users have an attention span, and that's usually reflected in your bounce rate, in your time on page, and those sorts of things.
And in terms of profit, obviously verification of revenue and expenses and those sort of things, I imagine there's a few difficulties and pitfalls in that. You're relying on the seller to provide all that information to you through screenshots or walkthroughs or whatever.
Yes.
I know on Flipper we do have issues sometimes with people who own multiple sites who aren't very good at actually separating the profit or the revenue or the cost between their sites. So it's hard to tell whether it applies to this site or another site, right? You have that problem all the time?
Yes. Disorganized sellers is a very common thing, unfortunately, and it's just something you have to deal with. That's why having a screen share, actually talking with them on Skype, helps a lot. There are some sites out there that literally have 10 or 15 different sources of income, and verifying that, that's going to take a long time. But you got to do it, figure out where all that money's coming from and what can be improved and so on.
So I'm sure as a seller you organise your profit and
Yes, oh gosh. Yeah, every single one of my sites, I do a KPI spreadsheet that I compile. It has all sorts of information, not just profit and not just income and expenses. It has main keywords, popular landing pages, all those sorts of things in there too. So, and I give access to every buyer to that.
Fantastic. Love to buy a site from you in that case.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
So just to round out the due diligence a little bit, do you have any sort of key tips for people who are looking to do due diligence on a new site? Anything that you'd recommend for them to watch out for?
To watch out for.
Other than what we've already covered?
Let's see. Well, there are a lot of red flags that come up for me. Sort of nitty-gritty stuff like backlinks and things like that. It's a bit difficult to sort of say this is a good backlink profile, this is a bad backlink profile. My number one piece of advice for people buying sites is to just ask lots of questions. You know, you're buying a business from someone, and it's your responsibility to find out as much about that business as you can before you buy it, whether it's big or small. And by asking lots of questions, you will learn a lot more about the site and have a clearer picture about whether or not that's something you actually even want to take on. So that's definitely an important thing. And it's not really due diligence per se, but it's just, you know, use your head. If it's something that you don't feel like you can run, or you don't want to run, or you don't want to learn to run, then maybe you should pass on that one, you know?
Sounds very sensible. And so the last question on due diligence is, do you have any particular tools that you use that help you with the due diligence that some of our viewers might be interested in looking at as well?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to traffic, get Google Analytics guest access. That's number one. You need to have access to Google Analytics. SEMrush is another tool that I use. Ahrefs as well, but I don't use that one as much. SEMrush I like quite a lot. That gives you some fairly detailed organic search metrics. For backlink profiles, majestic.com. There are, again, other ones. I think Ahrefs also does that. Domain authority and the sort of MozRank, those sorts of things that come from moz.com. And Skype, of course, to just jump on a Skype call.
Yep. To talk to the seller, to have run-throughs and that sort of stuff.
One other thing, for content-based sites, Copyscape is another good one.
Okay.
So Copyscape basically just you grab a bunch of content from the website, paste it into Copyscape, and it will tell you if there's duplicate content out there somewhere.
Of course, yes. Unique content versus duplicate content. Exactly. Big difference.
Yeah, so you'd be surprised how often content gets duplicated online. So
I'm sure.
You have to be careful for that.
I'm sure. So I imagine in your 7 years of experience in doing this, you've had a lot of wins, a lot of misses.
Oh yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about one or two of the not so good investments that you made?
Well, the very first site that I ever bought was I bought it for $700 US, and it was a significant chunk of money for me back then. And the site was called blacklacedresses.org. And basically, I owned it for about maybe 3 months. And then it got hit by a Google update, the exact match domain update, so it was ranking quite well for the keyword black lace dresses and black lace dress. And then that update rolled out and the traffic just went, I tried to fix it. Being my first investment, I'm like, I got to try and fix it. So I tried to fix it and it went up for a little bit. I made it better, but it wasn't anywhere near what it was when I bought it. So in the end, I just let that one go. So yeah, I mean, it definitely happens. And there was one other one. I used to be in the desktop wallpaper niche. I'm not anymore. After what happened with this one, I bought it. It would have been easily 3 or 4 years ago now, for sure. And this site had literally tens of thousands of images on the site, none of which they owned copyright to. And of course, I didn't know much about copyright back then. And one of the photos on the website was done by a photographer, and they contacted me and said, you're not supposed to display that. And they essentially threatened to sue me. They sent me letters and stuff like this, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? In the end, I ended up losing $1,000. I had to pay them a bit over $1,000 US to them just to make them go away. And yeah, that was the end of that niche. Not to say that you can't do it. Like, there are plenty of wallpaper sites out there that are doing it properly, but it's definitely a bit of a risky niche for sure.
So with the benefit of experience now with those two sites in particular, is there anything you do differently that would you be able to protect yourself better now, or would you just avoid them?
Well, I definitely know a lot more now than what I did back then. That is for sure. So I wouldn't probably invest in those websites now. Like I said, I'm not even in the wallpaper niche anymore. So, usually you can tell, generally, if the site has got good content, you can see that it's been built, it's a proper business. You can tell that it's got some authority, and you can tell just by looking at it that it looks real. That's a good sign, just right there. So, those two sites that I bought that I just mentioned, they did not tick that box. So, yeah.
Fair enough.